1987 saw the release of an album that ticked all the boxes, both for rockers, hard rockers, and metalheads. Appetite for Destruction, the debut album for the band Guns N' Roses. But what is now the best-selling debut album of all time, it is now 18 times platinum, passed almost unnoticed at the beginning, and 1 year later, though, it took off and allowed Guns to rule the world for 5 years. In 1987, the music business saw pop music sided by rock, hard rock, and metal. In the US album charts, in fact, we have number one albums by Bruce Springsteen, U2, Whitney Houston, Bon Jovi, Michael Jackson, and the Beastie Boys. So a very diverse environment. And on the hard rock side, we find releases by Bon Jovi, as I said, with Slippery When Wet, Motley Crue with Girls, 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 and Def Leppard with the fantastic album Hysteria. So a great year. And now that I look at the releases, 1987 was great for music. We have Joe Satriani's Surfing with the Alien, an album that was about to put instrumental music on the map, Aerosmith's Reunion Permanent Vacation, that I love, and Halloween's Keeper of the Seven Keys, and also releases by Dio, Sammy Hagar, Alice Cooper. But Guns N' Roses were born in the prolific 80s Los Angeles scene, when, after different incarnations and different player swaps between bands like LA Guns and Hollywood Roses, the 5 members that are associated to the classic lineup united. We had singer Axl Rose and guitarist Izzy Stradlin, both from Indiana, and bassist Duff McKagan, native of Seattle. At the beginning, in the band, we found Tracy Guns on guitars and drummer Rob Gardner, that were both from LA. And in spring 1985, when Duff booked dates for the band in the Seattle area to have a tour to cement the members into a tight unit, Tracy and Rob quit. So there was a show at the Troubadour booked for the following week, and the tour in the north was starting soon after it. Slash and Steven Adler were called and were happy to join as guitarist and drummer respectively. So all the band members recalled the first rehearsal together as a defining moment. They were a natural fit, musically speaking. As many know, the tour was short-lived. The band had to hitchhike since the car, as predicted, broke not far from Los Angeles. They starved for days and had issues with bar owner not willing to pay, but it served the purpose that was the original purpose for Duff, to cement the band into a gang. So back in LA, they found a self-storage space that they turned into a rehearsal space, a place to sleep, and a place where different kinds of business went on for a while. The musicianship was great, and the band started to have a good following in the LA area, drawing the attention of major labels and finally signing for Geffen. The label wanted the band to stay away from the clubs and focus on recording, so they released an EP, Live Like a Suicide, from the demos that the band had already recorded in order to keep interest in the band alive. And the genesis of Appetite for Destruction was not an easy one. The band recorded several demos since it was hard to find a producer that was interested or that fit the band's style. In the end, Mike Klink was chosen and the band started recording the album at the beginning of 1987. The recording process was pretty fast. Basic tracks were covered in a couple of weeks. It took a little more for the vocals since Axl was a perfectionist and wanted to record lines individually. And Izzy's guitars were recorded almost on the first take. Izzy was an extremely accurate player and he was able to capture the heart and soul of each song. On the other hand, Slash's guitars and above all the solos took more time, not for the recording per se, but for the sound. The sound of the guitars is one of the trademarks of Appetite for Destruction, but during the whole main recording sessions, Slash was unable to find a sound that he liked. He had 3 guitars at the time and none of them sounded right. And during the last day at the studio, he was handed a 59 Les Paul replica. He liked it, but he waited the first day in the studio that had been booked for his overdubs to plug it into an amp. And when he did, he thought it was good, and after 8 or 9 amps had been tested, he finally found a custom Marshall amp, and the pair, amp and guitar, sounded magical. He used it on all the tracks without changing any setting, without moving the microphone. He had found the sound he was looking for, and we can all hear it. When the album was released in July 1987, it passed almost unnoticed by the radio and the press. It entered the top 200 after 1 month, at number 182. A video for the song Welcome to the Jungle had been shot. The song was issued as a single in September, but both MTV and radio stations didn't play it. The band was touring with Cult in Canada and in the US, and basically nobody knew who they were. Guns N' Roses were then booked to open for Motley Crue on the Girls 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 tour starting in November. And by the end of 1987, Welcome to the Jungle started to have some airplay and MTV began to air the video, so the album made it to the top 100. On April 1988, the band shot the video for Sweet Child of Mine, and in July it started to have significant airplay on MTV. The song that the band didn't even envision as a single took off, and the album followed, ramping to number 1 on August 6, 1988, 1 year after its original release. To date, the album is the best-selling debut album of all time in the US, one of the best-selling albums ever, with the latest estimates of 30 million copies worldwide. And this is for sure one of those albums that everyone should listen to and keep in their library. The playing is great, the vocals are phenomenal, and there's not a weak song in the whole album. Talking about the songs, they are arranged on the 2 sides of the record that for the occasion were labeled G and R after Guns N' Roses instead of the more common side A and side B. Among the highlights, the album begins with the iconic echo delay driven intro of Welcome to the Jungle, played by Slash, and the song provides an accurate picture of what to expect from this album. Welcome to the Jungle has fiery guitars, powerful singing, changes and transitions that capture the listener, and it sounds massive. It is followed by It's So Easy, Night Train and Out to Get Me, all great songs, and they're still popular. If you happen to watch Formula 1 races nowadays, before the start of each race you can hear Out to Get Me being played. Mr. Brownstone is one of my favorite ones, and it was the second A-side for the It's So Easy release in the UK. And the main composers to the songs are Easy and Slash, and the lyrics tell the story of what it's like being in a band and addicted to heroin. The song was also famously associated to a statement from Axl, who during a concert said that it could be the last Guns show if some members of the band hadn't stopped dancing with Mr. Brownstone, as in the lyrics of the song. The last song of the A, or better the G side, is Paradise City, that is another staple for Guns N' Roses. It was the second single extracted from the album, and its video is great. It was filmed in 2 locations, the Giant Stadium in New Jersey, while the band was touring to support Aerosmith, and the Monsters of Rock in Donington Park, and it alternates scenes from the band playing live and backstage footage. While the first side of the record is centered around violence, drugs and debauchery, the second side is more focused on relationships, love and sex, and we find My Michelle, we find Think About You, that is really a love song in a fast rock dress, and it also includes the song that put the album under the spotlight, Sweet Child of Mine. The song was released as a single 11 months after the album release, and when its video started to air, it went on high rotation on MTV and made the album explode on the charts, up to number 1. And this song was not even considered a possible single by the band. The song is an up-tempo ballad that starts with the iconic riff played by Slash. A riff that Slash initially played as a joke. At the time, Slash and Izzy were playing in the house where they were living during the pre-production time. A house without furniture, basically they were sitting on the floor in the living room. And Slash started playing this riff while Izzy played some chord changes behind it. And unbeknownst to them, Axel was upstairs listening to them. A couple of days later, during pre-production rehearsals, Axel asked them to play what they were playing some nights before, and it turned out he had written the full lyrics for it. The album, that, as I said at the beginning, does not include the weak song, closes with You're Crazy and Rocket Queen, that are two other great songs. And the full album is rightfully considered a masterpiece. And after 35 years, it still sounds great and deserves to be listened to by the new generations of fans that now can see again Slash, Axel and Duff under the Guns N' Roses banner. I hope this video was interesting and informative for you, and if you liked it, remember to give it a like and subscribe to the channel to support this type of content. Thank you again for watching.